You got to sit down with our son, with me, and you got to tell our son the devil is this, that you did.
Wake your punk ass up. Warrior class, zoo, stand up. Warrior class, zoo, rise up. Warrior class, zoo, speak up. Warrior class, zoo, show up. Warrior class, zoo, smoke 'em out.
Peace, blessings, and black power. This is Amaja Owetu coming to you black at it again. Go ahead and put me in your headphones. Go ahead and put me in your speakers. Go ahead and put me on the regular Bluetooth listening apparatus. This is not a visual. This is just the audio. Go ahead and pull up a chair and let's see if we can learn a few things.
I'm calling about my child's father. I've been trying my best to get in contact with him to let him know what's going on with his son. And I departed ways about 15 years ago. My son was 1. I just told him, you know, you're not going to be in my life consistently, then you can't be in my son's life. And it's just like he knew what he was getting himself into. I was a virgin. I got pregnant. He knew that I was only trying to be with him, but it's like when I got pregnant, it was like he still wanted to do his own thing, and I wanted a family. So I told him if he didn't want to be in my life, then he couldn't be in my son's life. But it's to the point now I really need him. I really need him in my life now.
When was the last time y'all was on good terms?
I would say when my son was 2.
So how old is your son?
He's 16 now.
You seen your son in 14 years?
No, sir.
Okay, so what are you trying to establish today on this phone call?
So my son has been acting out, and he's just getting out of control. It's like nothing that I'm saying to him is getting through to him. And I know he's acting out because he wants his father, but I just need his father to be consistent. I need him to stay consistent in his life, in our life.
You got to sit down with our son, with me, and you got to tell our son the devil is this, that you did.
Family, notice how she said we need him in our life. Well, this is what they do when they need to stage the end result. So I'm trying to explain. Let me see if I can get it to you this way. She's setting up the outcome so that the outcome will go in her favor, regardless of the scientific name, regardless of the psychological name. She's staging this questionnaire. She's staging her stance. She's staging her point of view so that if the father says no, if the father says I don't want you, what that ultimately says is it's not my fault. Why? Because the father said he didn't want me. And if you're not able to hear how people talk, if you're not able to hear the double speak in a person's conversation, then you're going to be less likely to be able to defend yourself properly. Remember, she's calling about the boy. The son is unruly. The son is misbehaving. The son needs that adult male figure discipline. So if this is what the son needs, then that means we should be moving in the best direction of the son. What she is saying is, I need you as well. But here goes the problem. Even though you, the individual, her, she, could also use my positive attributes, you, the individual, female, there are things about you that are problematic, and they're so problematic to the point where I, the individual male or father, would not give my positive attributes to you, female mother. I, male father, would rather give my positive attributes to another female who is less problematic, even if she does not have the same aesthetic shape. You mother female may have an hourglass shape, but you mother female, you're way problematic, and whatever your package is, what's inside of the package is way more harmful to me, the male, the father. So even if I go out and get another female, and she may not have your exact measurements, I would get another female who is less problematic, who is less of a threat. What happens is if you're not able to hear the double speak as they're speaking it, you're gonna fall for it because she's painting it as the son is in need of your help. But we come as a package deal.
You got to sit down with our son with me, and you got to tell our son the devilish that you did.
Okay. Listen. We don't have a lot of time. I already got where you come from. You didn't let him see your son for 14 years. Now your son off the chain, where he needed that male figure, that male role model in his life, and now you want him to come to bat for the little boy now.
We need him. I cannot deny it no more. We need him. We need him. I cannot deny it no more. We need him. We need him. I cannot deny it no more. We need him.
You got to sit down with our son with me, and you got to tell our son the devilish that you did.
I don't know about this one, because you done killed the man out the baby life all the time. I don't really know how this is going to play out, but let's just figure it out.
Hello? I tried to be there for my son. I tried to be there for my son. I tried to be there for my son. But because I wouldn't be in a relationship with her, she was just like, if you can't be there with me, you can't be there for our son. I don't want you in our son's life.
Now, this is where the men are making the mistake. And this is where the children do not realize that their mothers are very, very wicked. You got to be careful how you speak to certain people, because people have childhood traumas that supersede all other information that comes in. Information in itself is supposed to be non-biased. All you're supposed to do when you get the information is just take it on the chin, take it face value, just take it as it is. The problem is since we all individuals are at war with all individuals, we end up using the information as a weapon of defense or a weapon of offense. We end up using the information as a weapon. When the male said, I tried to be here for my son, but she kept keeping me away from him. You gotta understand, younger males, it is time that you go back and you look at your fathers and you face your fathers and you talk to your fathers. And unfortunately, you are going to have to ask those questions that you do not want to ask. Why did you do this? Why weren't you always around? What was mommy like? Well, what did mommy say? Well, what did mommy do? And fathers, unfortunately, you are going to have to share that information about that female, his mother, that you don't think that you should have to share about that female, his mother, in order for that young child. The child is the female, the child is the male, because that woman, that female, that mother, she is hurting both genders. She is not just hurting the male child, she is hurting male child and female child. The problem is that when the male child comes of age, he reacts in a violent or negative way. Whereas the female child, when she comes of age, she acts a different way. So both ways are violent, but one is more or less external. He's going to be messing up the environment. He's going to be messing up the neighborhood. What the female will do is she will mess up the environment, but she will mess it up herself. Her environment consists of the household. His environment consists of the community, neighbors, corner stores, gas stations, robberies, hustling. Her environment consists of the house. She's going to want her house ran a specific way. And at the end, the young female is usually going to be closer to her, because we all know most females are not permitted to run the street. Not all females, your larger population number, most females are not permitted to run the street. So when the young girl, sister, is not allowed to run the street, she is the one that's going to absorb the brunt of your mother's, your ex-wives, or the lady friend, the female, she's going to absorb the brunt of her poison, her evil. Whereas the male, he gets to run away from it. He gets to run away from it joining the football team. He gets to run away from it joining the basketball team. He gets to run away from it being sent to the group home. He gets to run away from it being at his best friend's house making raps or making beats. The male gets to run away from it. The problem is he's still running away from reality, and instead of him actually seeing the poison that his mother spews, he will see the kindness, but he will be angry most at you, because in his eyes, in his mind, you abandoned him, even though it is the mother that did this to us.
You got to sit down with our son with me, and you got to tell our son the devil is just that you did. You want me to step in and play God and fix something. You want me to step in and play God and fix something. You want me to step in and play God and fix something. Not God. I can't fix 16 years worth of damage that you've done.
I told you then, I'm telling you now, my son and I are a package deal. So, yes, I am saying...
This is not chess. This is not chess. Our son is not a pawn. The only way we can actually do this to try to fix this, you got to sit down with our son with me, and you got to tell our son the devil is just that you did. You got to sit down with our son with me, and you got to tell our son the devil is just that you did. You got to sit down with our son with me, and you got to tell our son the devil is just that you did.
Now, let me tell you why I agree that both parties need to be held accountable for all the deeds that they did when it comes to how we got here. Now, when I speak, I need you to understand, some things should be cradle to the grave. Some things need to be, you don't ever speak on that. You go to the grave with that. There are some things that are like that. You have to determine, not you, the individual, we all have to determine what is take it to the grave worthy and what is save a life worthy. Right now, you're trying to save your daughter's life. You're trying to save your son's life. And just like in court, they lay all things bare so the jury can get a better understanding of motives, reasons, and why an individual came to the idea or thought process or conclusion to execute whatever it is that they did. They lay all things bare as much as humanly possible. When you are in family counseling, and yes, I've been through family counseling, and I said before in one of my videos, I even have certificates where I had to go through family counseling. One of those things was like anger management, family counseling, and one of those things like early childhood development. One of those things, I had to go through all these classes because in my younger years, these are the internal things I was dealing with. Psychologically and emotionally. So I went through those things and I passed it. The point I'm making is you do have to lay your cards on the table. Your children know about all aspects of sex. Your children know about all aspects of cooking up, of selling drugs. Your children have already learned always and all aspects of how to commit a murder. It's a TV series that's on TV right now, How to Commit a Murder and Get Away with It. That's the title. Your children already know. Look, Dexter. Dexter is a police detective, but he's also a serial killer. That's a TV series. Your children already know about the things you're trying to keep your children away from. Even if you're trying to keep your children away from these things in your household, your children, they're going to school and other children are having those discussions. Your children already know where babies come from before you have that discussion. So if you call yourself trying to save your kids or your kid, you ain't ready for that. You too young. We're worried about you're doing not only your son or your daughter a disadvantage. You're doing yourself a disadvantage. You are lying to the kids. As they say, you can even lie through omission. Say what? Even if you don't speak the lie, you're withholding information, which transfers to lying by omission. I'm explaining to you guys, you're gonna have to lay all cards on the table. Your sons and your daughters need to know the wickedness of their mothers. And if it's on the other side, your daughters need to know the evil that was in her father, which is the reason why I kept you away from your father. But in plain speaking, right now we are talking about men, males, fathers. This is how you are failing your children. And I don't want to just say sons, because I'm telling you right now, your daughters feel the same level of abandonment by you via the mother. They don't see the mother. They know the mother is wicked, but you put them in a situation, you put them in an environment to where they're not going to leave their mothers because they're scared and they want to help their mothers. Yeah, mommy, I know what you said, but that's not what I get when I talk to them. So it's okay. I'll let you feel the way you feel, and I'm going to try to get you a house so I can take the stress off your back. I'm going to try to move you in with me, so I'm going to stay with you you so we can divide the bills. Now that I'm grown, I understand. I'm going to do this. They're going to try to help her. That's male and female. They're going to try to help their mother. They're not going to try to help their mother because she's female. They're going to try to help their mother because she's the one that was most consistent in their lives. I had to break away from my biological mother at a certain age. Why? Because there was things that she was doing that I did not agree with. And whenever she would do it, it would set my soul on fucking fire. So I needed to break away from her for a while. And when I did, I was able to recuperate. I was able to regather my thoughts. I was able to be me. But at the same time, I knew she was my mom. And I understand the world that we're coming from. So I didn't abandon her. Don't call, don't write, don't speak. I just kept my distance. I didn't make as many visits over there to the house. I didn't come around and get the car. I don't care what I needed. I ended up walking as to not put myself in a situation to where I need to go see her or look at her anytime shorter than the amount of time I needed to break. But if my mother, my biological mother, said, this is what's up, I shot her bread. I shot her the money that she needed. I was better off sending money orders to her, Instagram, whatever, to her, than me actually making a visit to her. That's a personal thing. I'm saying personally, you're going to have to break away from these individuals. They're not sticking around simply because she's female mother. They're sticking, your sons and daughters are sticking around because she's the most consistent thing in their lives. But you, males, you, fathers, if you start to get in your children's lives, that's male and female, if you start to get into your children's lives and allow your children to actually see you, male, father, individual, and when mommy, mother, female, start running her mouth in a negative way towards you, male, father, what is eventually going to happen is she's going to put two and two together and say, nah, ma, that's you. But you also have to make your children, male and female, feel safe. You also have to make them feel like you have a place for them to come, which is a sanctuary. I want to come visit you for the summer. You need to bring your children with you. And I don't mean adult children, because adult children are now adults. They got jobs, they got schools, they got things going on, so they can't pack up and go. But one of the ways in which you try to get your children away from these evil women is you're going to have to paper up, you're going to have to go to the court, and you're going to have to ask. And you're going to have to deal with the evil and the hate that female has put in your child. And that's male and female. So every time that child comes to visit you for the weekend, every time that child comes to visit you, you gotta reprogram, you gotta get them on your program, and they're gonna fight you every step of the way, and they're supposed to. What I'm saying to you, you younger males, let them fight you. You don't give up on them. Let them holler. You don't give up on them. Let them tear up your house. You don't give up on them. Let them tear that TV down, because they know everybody likes a big screen TV, so they know the value of a big screen TV, and they're coming to your house deliberately to tear up your big screen TV. Let them do it. You can replace that TV. You need that child to realize that you got their back. That's all the children needs to know. The children are at a point now where they don't need hugs. They don't need Christmases. They need to know you're stable, you're consistent, and you're a reliable resource, even if it's only economical. But every time you get a chance to speak to your children, and that's male and female, you need to be always dropping them who you are. Share your childhood photos. Share your family photos. Share with them the things that they need, the individual, in order to see that you are really not the bad guy. Because they are in high school, they are in elementary, they are in this real world, and they can already see not every relationship is a perfect relationship. Problem is they don't have your side of the story. They only have her side of the story. So when it's her side of the story, and her side of the story mimics and matches their friends, their cousins, schoolmates' sides of the story, then by default, all black men become the big bad wolf. They do not have your side of the story. Most males do not get the side of their father's story, not until they are at least 35 to 37, almost 40 years of age and older, before they realize that mommy was the problem. not so much daddy. Yes, daddy is a problem because he left us, he abandoned us, and things would have been better had he stayed around. But the problem stems from the female. Why? The female, not in every relationship, the female wants things her way, and she's willing to destroy everything in her circumference in order to get things her way.
If you got to sit down with our son, with me, and you got to tell our son the devil is this, that you did. You're not willing to do that. There's nothing I can do. I'm not trying to turn my back on my son.
Bro, wait a minute, because you on a good track.
Whoa.
I don't want you to mess it up. So, just don't do the devil thing, but y'all need to talk. I haven't saw my son in over 2 years, bro. And I be waiting on a call like this so I can
I'm in total agreement with the father. I'm pretty sure you guys already got that. You can tell by the way I speak, be truthful and be honest to a certain degree, because some things do need to go to the grave, but not all things need to go to the grave. You need to lay bare what's going on, real talk. Now, if you on that battlefield, wartime, your children don't really need to know, that your child doesn't really need to know what happened on that battlefield way over there in Kuwait. Your child really doesn't need to know that. Your child simply needs to understand either you came back psychologically okay or you didn't. Your child needs to know that when you come around that child, that child is safe in your presence. So if you're shell shocked or if you're experiencing any form of PTSD, you need to go get the counseling and you need to go get the things that you need to do in order to be able to deal with the civilian world now that you're no longer in wartime. Your child just needs to know that you're safe. However, the caveat or the conundrum to that is if you are suffering from PTSD and you're bringing that home to your children, now your children need to know where it comes from. Just like your therapist needs to know, your children needs to know. That way they are rest assured it's not them. And you have to be able to explain it in a manner and in a way to where that the child knows without a shadow of a doubt you love them, but you're dealing with some issues. So you're gonna leave because you love them and you're trying to keep your issues from hurting them. You can explain it any way you explain it. Some things need to be spoken and some things don't. But if you're in direct conflict or direct attack of your children, then you're gonna really have to speak it. That way the child doesn't draw a conclusion or an idea of his or her thoughts manifested by the way you make them feel, but it's all fabricated. Now, number two, you see how that individual was about to cry and shed some tears about that individual himself being in a similar situation? I say to you guys often, you've got to learn talking points and you got to learn behavioral patterns. Some people come to the table with implicit bias. They're coming to the table with childhood trauma. They're coming to the table with previous issues, previous related issues. Some people were molested. Some people were raped. Some people were kidnapped. Some people were jumped. Some people were bullied. Some people are coming to the table with all things that are already happening, that has already happened to them because they were in that situation themselves. And when they were in that situation themselves as a child or as an adult, but definitely as a victim, vulnerable, all they ever wanted was someone to save them. That's all they ever wanted, male or female. All they wanted was someone to save them. So when you come in the spot, when you come in the joint talking the talk that you're talking, you got to understand that someone else has a different point of view. For instance, if you was on a high school, if you was on the elementary school playground and you were the kid that was being bullied, chances are now that you are in position of power, you're going to have a reverence of when you were bullied. So now when you say, like, you are a judge, now that you're the judge and you can see the criminal activity and how bullies usually turn out, you're going to end up giving the men or the women that come before you as a judge more stiffer, more stricter time. Why? Because you're always judging the situation based on the things that has happened to you. Now, when I say always, I don't mean absolute to perfection. I simply just mean majority of your cases that come across your bench, you're going to hit them hard as a form of payback. Same thing with police officers. Police officers were usually the bullies. So now that they're police officers and now they are in positions of absolute or legal power, what they do is they go out and they terrorize the neighborhood. So the pattern is the same. It doesn't matter who's executing it, who's demonstrating it, who's portraying it. Pattern is the same. When you're having a conversation with an individual that's supposed to be non-biased, it's just information, it's not non-biased for them, no matter how they say it. Well, how do you determine not to? You got to learn. You got to stay in class, because I'm giving you the lessons. I'm giving you the lessons, and I'm also giving you the literary information that says when they say this is in fact what they mean. I played a video on my previous video, and it was black women feel as though, not black women, the female said, the individual female, feel as though the white man system is better for the black woman, because before the white man system there was no system that was protecting the black woman. So even though that's one individual speaking that way, you must understand, look at the behavioral patterns. She has a thought process. She has a verbalized way of thinking. I now know the way she thinks, but she also has a physical behavioral pattern. Her physical behavioral pattern is being mimicked and duplicated in other areas of life by other human beings. And even though those other human beings have not said the exact same words out of their mouths, their actions are the same. Those women, they don't necessarily say the exact same words. They say the other words, such as, I hate black men and divest from black men, and black men ain't shit. They say other words, but both of their behavioral patterns are the same. So what do? Do we wait on 800 women to say, yeah, the white man system is better for black women, because before the white man system there was no system that was protecting or good enough for black women? Or do we simply just take it as what it is, reality? These people are moving against us. Doesn't matter what they all say, doesn't matter how they feel, and it doesn't matter what is in the books. What matters most is what's happening in the real world. And when I speak to you individual males, when I speak to you males, I am explaining to all of you, even if the women are listening, I have the documentation, I have the data, I have the statistics, and I'm telling you, black women are actually moving against black men, politically, legally, socially, economically, and spiritually. They are actually moving against black men. They are moving against black men not solely because they hate black men. They are moving against black men specifically for sexual liberation. And in their world, sexual liberation is their safety net. So when black men come into power, we're going to challenge that safety net. We're going to tell you you can't use that safety net as reckless as you've been using it now. However, WSR allows them to use that safety net as reckless as they are using now. So they're not going to do anything that's going to interfere with that ability to use their safety net. And I agree with her. Listen to my words. I 100% agree with the female using her safety net to the best of her ability. What I disagree is the amount of time she's using that safety net. If we understand that thing that lies between her legs means that much to us, then that means it has a value on it. I don't know if it's a top 10. I don't know if it's a bottom 3. I don't know on the number scale where it lands. It lands on a number scale different for every individual, but I know how valuable it is to the majority people. And since I know how valuable it is to the majority males, because it's valuable to male and female, let's not make it a thing, but I know how valuable it is. And since I understand how valuable it is, she should be using her best asset the way that she sees fit. The difference is you don't get 800 go-arounds on a merry-go-round. There is no line on the face of this planet where you can get into that line 1,000 times over and over and over and over. You can get into that line about 5 times, a little bit more, but after a while, once they start to see that you're taking advantage of the free line pass, the carnival pass, they're gonna cut it. Like, all right. You've been here all morning in the same line, and you done rid this line for about 20 times. Even they will say something about it. So what am I saying? I'm saying the same thing. Use it. If you believe your thing in between your legs can land you the bigger and the best fish, use it. But do me a favor. When you get that bigger and best fish, stick with it. Don't say, well, I got the bigger and I got the best fish, but So then you leave the bigger and best fish. You don't have to be married. You just leave the bigger and best fish. When you leave the bigger and best fish, you go try to go get another bigger and best fish. You're only going to get access to one bigger and best fish. Everything else after that is downhill. It's going to go downhill because we understand you're used. We understand that. We can see it on you, you're used. We can see by the way you dress. We can see by the way you talk. We can see by the way you respond. We can see by the way you act. We can tell you're used. So therefore, I'm not going to give you my best asset. Well, what is the man's best asset? The man's best asset on this planet is his individual system, structure, and order. And in that system, structure, and order, that's when he's either going to be a great caregiver, a provider, a protector, a provisionalist. That's where he's going to be all those attributes that you, the female, need. Not necessarily want, but definitely what you need. You may want to go spin around the world and you may want to travel the world. He may not be able to do that for you, but he is going to keep his hands off you. He may not be able to buy you Birkin bags and red shoes, red bottoms, but he will not be putting his penis in other women. There's different attributes for every person. So now you, the female, you got to determine what you want. If that is your most valuable asset, you have to treat it like it's your most valuable asset. And if you're going to treat it like it's the most valuable asset, you better go out there and get what you believe your asset can give you. And then you honor what you got. You don't say, well, I got it. I'm the table. You do what I say, what I want. Happy wine, happy life. You don't do things like that. You sit up there and you acknowledge the reality. All right, this is the best that I can land. Because if I could have land better, I would have land better. But this is the best that I could land. So now you two need to ride off into the sunset. 5 kids or more, and y'all make all that money y'all supposed to make, and y'all eventually die and give all your assets to your children. That's the difference when I speak what I speak. I know that her asset is very valuable, absolutely. But I also know WSR provides a system to where she can use it at her discretion. And that is the discrepancy. That's where I fork in the road. No, you get 3 to 5 go-arounds. Anything after that, you're for the streets. Anything after that, you're for the streets. I understand why the women are important, but when this male sat up here and did all that damn crying, those are the males you have to look out for. Because those males, I am telling you guys, some males hold that asset in extreme value, and they're going to create calamity in order to have access to it. So a father is calling up, giving his point of view of how things got the way they are, and then this male says, nah man, I don't think that's the way you want to handle a situation. And understand, everybody's entitled to handle their individual personal situation the best that they see fit for their individual personal people under their protection. If I believe it's in my daughter's best interest to learn tennis, I should have the right to let her learn tennis. If I believe it's in my daughter's best interest to go to college and learn home ec, then I believe I should have that right without penalty from the rest of my peer group about how to move. The only thing my peer group needs to do is support me in my decision. That's all they need to do, unless it is absolute volatile to those under my control. So if I'm abusing my children, then my peer group needs to step in and rectify that. If I'm not abusing my children or my spouse, my mate, we don't have to be married, but my live-in mate, then my peer group needs to support my decision. That's all they need to do. And if we get that level of support, what will usually happen is if my daughter is going off to learn home ec and how to be a wife, then somebody on the other side has a son, which would be a perfect candidate for my daughter to possibly marry. But if you're sitting up here and you're doing what this male did, this male who's crying is wrong. That male is wrong. That is not your situation. That is not your experience. So don't you do what he did in this situation to express or convey your thoughts. That individual that's about to get up here and cape he needs to be silenced. And that's probably why he is in the situation that he is in, because he didn't have the support that he needed in order to yield the best possible result. It went the way it went for him, and now he feels some kind of way about it. So now that he sees someone else is going through the same possible scenario situation, he thinks that it's the same. No, man, because I was good. Now, I don't know how you drop a dime that fast on tears, but that is human nature. I'm not here to pick on him. I'm here to simply say to the other males, to the younger males, don't you go crying about this, and don't you stop another male from doing the best he can for his situation and his scenario. All you need to do is realize either he's going to do the right thing or do the bad thing, and all we need to ever talk about is whether or not he's doing the bad thing. If he's not doing the bad thing, then we need to support him, even if it is support him from a distance. All right, I'm going to give a GoFundMe. Boom, here you go. I don't agree with the way you're doing it, but I understand why you're doing it. So what about doing it this way? Just food for thought, not trying to change you, just food for thought, not trying to force you, just trying to give you all the information on the table so you can yield the best result.
They have a 16-year-old son together. Been really petty and mean-spirited towards.
These are my closing statements. Fathers, this is how you, the male, the father, are allowing it. Mothers raise cowards. Fathers allow it. We are past the time where there was a time where you can get your kid, your mother will raise you for like, say, the first 10 or 12 years of your life. And as you start to hit 12, 13, and 14, then you have to go live with your father. And we all seen cases and scenarios where the child's father ends back up in that child's life. Well, where is Rakim? Oh, nah, man, he don't live here anymore. What? But you would see his mother, so you're like, what? Well, yeah, he went to go live with his father. We've all seen case scenarios of that. That's the balance. But in the last 30 years, you haven't seen that balance. That's mainly because men have not been in a position to where they can take care of the child. Some men are in the military, they can't come back and forth. Some men are over-the-road truck drivers. They can't stay at home and raise that kid and make a living the way that they were used to making a living. Some men are high-ranking businessmen where they got to be on trips. They're constantly making trips out of the state, out of the city, with anywhere out of the 50-mile radius of that city. And it really does depend on your city. The point I'm making is when you have these jobs that pay a lot of money, those jobs also are very demanding on its workforce. So even if you are a warehouse worker or an assembly lineman, the job is so demanding. 12-hour shifts, 4 days on, 3 days off, whatever the case may be, split shifts, rotating shifts, doctors. When you have these high-paying jobs, you also have high-paying not a high pain, but high stress level of scheduling. That scheduling is high. That means somebody's always there, somebody's on call. And the mistake is made because in order to make the money to provide for the kid, remember, to make the money to provide for the kid, that means somebody got to be at work. Unfortunately for the women have a system. Well, what is that system? Welfare. The female can go down to the welfare and say whatever she needs to say and she can get a check. Female can go down to the welfare and say whatever she say and get public housing. Now, I'm not telling you that the men cannot do it. What I'm telling you it is less likely that the men are going to do it. Well, why? Not because the men are so macho. Man, I'm a man, I don't need no help. That's not it. It's because you're being turned away. More men are being denied and more men are being turned away from public assistance than there are men who actually need the public assistance. So even though both genders can use the public assistance, it is far more in favor of the female using public assistance. So when the men go down there and everything is the same, I got 3 kids, my wife died or my wife left me, whatever the case, or she's incarcerated, whatever the case may be, if the female is not there, this is the position I'm in. Is there any assistance and help I can get? Clerk will give you the paperwork because you can fill out the paperwork. They cannot deny you the paperwork. You fill out that paperwork and they'll say, well, we'll put it in the system and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Next thing you're gonna know is like, well, we don't have any vacancies, we don't have any funding, we don't have any. So what eventually happens is that male will lose his job, or that male will have to give those children back, or that male will have to get with a female that can help him raise them, or that male goes back home to mama, can you help me with these kids? Understand how it works. But what happens is if it's that female, everything is the same, absent father, that female, you'll fill out that paperwork, and by the end of that meeting, well, we'll get back to you, you'll get a call later on that night, yeah, we got a vacancy. Well, it's gonna take you about 30 days. So in 30 days, 2 weeks to 30 days, if we can move you in. So all the female has to do is stay in a shelter. All the female has to do is live with a live one. All the female has to do is live in a hotel or a motel for the next 2 weeks or 30 days. After those next 2 weeks or 30 days, she gets a move-in price. Now, am I telling you that happens to every case? Please stop talking and please stop thinking absolutes. It is not happening on an absolute basis. We are talking generalities. Why are we talking generalities? Generalities is a drag net. It basically means the majority of the people fall under this umbrella. Does not mean every and all. Don't get hung up on the particulates of every and all. Well, not in all cases. I shouldn't have to do disclaimers like that. When you do a disclaimer like that, that's debunking the information. That's like, well, it ain't that important. And it is that important because that is the reason why we are being tripped. This is how you are failing your son. Fathers, this is how you are failing your daughters. If you couldn't get into their lives because that woman was so wicked, now that these children are older, you be the best grandfather you could possibly be. And every time that child runs down, well, you weren't there for me. Well, why? You have to take it. You have to take it because they got 20 years of pent up pain, not anger, pain. What is the difference between the pain and the anger? The anger is because you caused it. Pain is there and they don't know why it's there. You were never around to actually cause them pain, but it's there. The anger is that you were around and you caused it. Two different things. You don't have to agree. Go look it up. Warrior class, Zoo, rise up. Warrior class, Zoo, speak up. Warrior class, Zoo, show up. Warrior class, Zoo, smoke them out. Peace and black love.
Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research.